Suffice to say that he has interviewed more celebrities, stars and VIPs than any other person on earth, and he does it superbly. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Parkinson. I think, Michael, you have brought with you your fan club. May I just for a start, if I may, first of all, to welcome you to the show, and I know it's a change for you to sit in that seat.
It is indeed, yes. It's a pleasant change, too.
If the urge takes you to switch halfway through, I'm quite happy to do that.
No, I've got no urge to do that at all, Des. I really haven't. I did a long enough stint at that, mate. I know it's going through your mind now.
No, I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'd like to start with there was a reaction there from the ladies, and there is, and always has been, around you, a romantic image.
Oh, my God,
Oh,
no.
come Mike, it has been quoted in and the Times, would they lie? The thinking woman's crumpet.
I never liked that very much. I'd have preferred the working girl's rissole. I mean, it's just one of those silly things that sort of grow up round you, isn't it? I mean, it's like the rumour that I constantly pick my nose and scratch my hair on television. I don't do that.
You don't?
No, not much. I think I'm nervous, I do it. No, it's just one of those silly glib things that, they say about you.
And you don't accept it?
No, not at all. I mean, it would be flattering if it were true.
What do you think, girls? There you are. He's lovely. Let me take you back to a couple of girls. I mean, my researchers assure me, Mike, that Mavis Lodge and Pat Heaton figure in your callow youth, or even earlier, because they were 7 and 8. Supposed to be your first two girlfriends.
Yeah, that was at junior school. But I mean.
And you were already at it then?
Well, no, I wasn't at it. I was at the sort of fantasy, that all kids have. I started fairly early, I think. I had a very, very fertile imagination. And, but those days, of course, it was innocence, wasn't it? I mean, it was the day of the 24-minute kiss. Do you remember that,
Never had one of those,
Yes, you did. Yes, you do, Des. I remember
only with a trumpet player.
I remember you actually at Butlins holiday camp when you were a red coat. Yes, and I was actually... I once followed you home. You didn't know this, to a chalet. And you were with a very, very attractive, dark-haired lady. And I stopped short of knocking on the door and pursuing it further, but it's amazing I remember that, you see. You should ask me questions about my sex life. I should be grilling you.
Well, I did say if you want to switch, please do. I'd like to meet her again. She sounds delightful. At 60, I'm sorry.
But the entire thing about, coming from the background where I did from a sort of mining village in Yorkshire, in those, we're talking now about sort of 30 years ago or more, that, it was the age of innocence. I mean, there was the sort of sexual revolution not yet happened. It hadn't reached Barnsley in those days. And my entire sort of courtship, and people used to do courting in those days, was based on what I saw in the movies. And I was a ridiculous figure. I used to invent... if I'd see a guy on an American movie order a highball, I used to take the girl out and go to a bar in Barnsley. Can you imagine it's a pub in Barnsley? And order a highball. And the guy would look at me and shake. And I remember one day I did this. I went there, I took this girl on, I wanted to impress, and I ordered a highball. And the guy sort of looked at me, but concocted this drink. It looked like Sunpoil. It really did. And I gave it to this girl who I was trying very hard to impress. She had one drink and collapsed. And I took her home and got beaten up by her father. That's how successful I was.
But, all right, so let's say that the early romantic Michael didn't work. At 16 years of age, there you were an avid film fan. A lunatic. By your own admission, you used to sit through the
I used to go
drive.
4 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. There's called the Rock Cinema at Cudworth, which is a pit village where I was born. And it was a social centre of our life. We used to do our courting on the back row. That's where the 24-minute kiss came in. There was nothing else to do, and that's where all my fantasies started. That's where all my ambitions started. I remember I knew more. When I went to New York the first time when I was about 28, 29, I knew what New York looked like through the movies. Mm-hmm. I knew what New York cab drivers talked like through the movies. I knew LA before I ever went there, many, many years before. And I picked up on my fantasy. I wanted to be a journalist because I saw Humphrey Bogart in a big white Mac and a snap-brim trilby. That's why I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be famous like him as well. And all that fantasy was there, fed in by this marvellous medium of movies.
But you actually, I mean, started in journalism at 16 and combined the two fantasies.
I did.
And, I mean, there's a lovely description in The Best of Parkinson, which is a marvellous book. And I don't just say that for the plug, it is. It's made me laugh. A lot of very funny and very touching moments in it. But back to you, 16 years of age, with this two things coming at you. One, you wanted to be a journalist, and one, you wanted to be a film star.
That's right.
And you combined the two beautifully.
I did. I bought myself a white Mac, like Humphrey Bogart. I got myself a snap brim, pearl grey fedora, the only one in all of Yorkshire. The only problem was that instead of having a car, I had a bike, push bike. And the hat used to come off when I was going downhill. So I got half a yard of my Auntie Madge's knicker elastic, and I made a chin strap. And I was the only man in the world with a pearl grey snap brim fedora with knicker elastic for a chin strap. But the thing about it was that when I went downhill on my bike and there was a wind coming the other way, you know those arresting parachutes on airplanes?
Oh, yeah.
I was like one of them. But it was, you know, all madness, all fantasy. I basically, as I say, I wanted to be famous, and being a journalist seemed to me one way. I didn't think I couldn't be a film star. I mean, who came from pit village in Barnsley becomes a film star? Journalism was, I had an aptitude to write. So that was one way of getting out of it. And my ambition nearly came to a very early end. I was about 18, and I'd been working for 2 or 3 years in a local newspaper. And I wanted my name on the page. I wanted my name in lights. And in those days, you didn't get your name above a story. You were called a special correspondent or whatever. And one day, the editor called me in and said, I want you to go and report this wedding in Barnsley. I remember his phrase this day. He said, it's Barnsley's greatest society wedding. Now, that's a contradiction in terms. A society wedding in Barnsley, there's no such thing. And he said, if you go there and get everything right and report it properly, he said, I'll give you your name above the piece. And I went, and when you report a wedding, all you do is just report the names right, because that's what sells newspapers. And I spent hours over these names, got them absolutely right, sent the copy off. The paper was published on a Friday. On Thursday, I sat up all night waiting for this slab of newsprint to come through the door. For my first time to see my name there, I existed. And there it was. It said, Barnsley's Greatest Society Wedding by Michael Parkinson, the very first time I'd seen my name in print. And I read through the piece, and it was exactly as I'd written it until I came to the last paragraph. And the last paragraph said, at the end of a blissfully happy occasion, the couple exchanged presents. The bride presented the groom with a pair of cufflinks. The groom presented the bride with an electric cock. Now, you see, look, you see, they laugh because they've all...
So would I.
They've all got one. I mean, in those days, I mean, they didn't exist. You know, I mean, we're talking about 30 years ago. And whenever I tell this story to journalists, particularly fellow journalists, they don't believe me. It's absolutely true, because in the style book of the paper that I work, the style book is certain papers have certain ways of spelling things and saying things. In the style book of that newspaper, to this day, is the memo the editor sent round, which said, in future, all references to clocks, electric or otherwise, in the South Yorkshire Times were referred to as timepieces.
You work quite a deal now with your wife. I mean, is that a happy situation, or does it have its stresses, Michael?
It makes pillow talk very interesting.
Well, what are you talking? I suppose you only talk about work.
Yes, precisely. It's sort of, romantic talk about running orders and questions that you asked, and you should have asked this and all that. It also saves on alarm calls, I suppose. One alarm call gets the two of us up. I like working with professionals, and the reason why I like working with Mary is because I think she's one of the best performers on British television of her kind. And so I admire her professionally, apart from, you know, loving her as my wife.
You're going to get a good supper tonight when you get
Yes, it's the first time she's heard this. She knows it's a lie.
But, all right, so, but I tell you what a smoothie Michael is. He actually, you met Mary on the top of a bus, right? And this famous talker, right? The best interviewer and talker in the world, for my money. You sent your mate up to chat her up for, well, you gave him 5 shillings.
I was very shy. And, you know, it's amazing. When I saw her, and I knew I wanted to be with her. I didn't...
Love at first sight?
Well, it wasn't that. It doesn't happen that way, does it? I mean, you don't go fall down, you know, you get palpitations, but you see somebody, I did anyway, and I thought, I want to know you very, very well indeed, you know, and I'm sure that you wouldn't disappoint me, but I was terribly shy. The knockback, because this mattered. So I sent my mate, a guy called...
Oh, you made an
I was
approach?
afraid of it. I was afraid of the knockback. So I sent my mate, Dennis Cassidy, I gave him 5 bob, to call her up.
Yeah, wild thing.
And he made the date, and I turned up. Unfortunately, she didn't run away.
And then about a year later, you were married.
That was 25 years we've been married. My eldest boy is 24.
Ah, well, we weren't checking.
She likes me to say that. You know.
Does she? Oh, well, I mean, it was 1 year then from marriage to this, you know.
It was called a honeymoon baby.
A honeymoon baby. Let's go on to the TV show, which, you know, was 11 years, something like that?
Yeah, 11 years.
In this book, it is listed, it's quite an extraordinary list. I didn't actually count them, but there must be something like 1,000 and 361 shows in here. And you've, what is your definition of a conversation like this?
Well, a definition of a talk show, it's an unnatural act between two consulting adults in public. And that's basically what it is, because...
That's what we're doing now?
That's what we're doing now, because basically what you have to... It's a confidence trick. You have
do you
to
think it's the best job, don't you, Mark?
Oh, it's the best job
You've
in the
actually
world.
said that it's the best... You've said the best job in the world.
It is, because you're like the host at a perfect dinner party. You can invite anybody from anywhere in the world. All the fascinating people, the people that fascinate you, and they come to your table and they sit down. And basically all you ask of that audience is that they sit in and listen to this conversation and hope that they might have wanted to share a table with this person and hear them.
I can't let you go without taking you to your not two most recent interviews, but Koo Stark, can you give us I mean, did she burst into tears?
No, it's the biggest non-interview of all time. Do you know Koo?
Well, I've met her, yes. You devil.
Why are you smiling when you say that, Des? No, I mean, I just thought it was the biggest non-interview of all time. It had a certain fascination in that, you know, she was seen to be on television. She wouldn't talk about you, Des. She didn't talk about Prince or anything like that.
I bet the papers, the gossip writers going, hello. What's that?
What does he know that we don't? But, no, I mean, I've got a theory about Koo Stark. I think that she once met Prince Andrew, and since that point, she's never seen him again. And it's the entire hype of the press aiding and abetting her. See, I get the feeling that it's the best part that she'll ever have in her life. And by God, she's playing it to the hilt. And she's a nice kid. I mean, she's a sweet kid. And good luck to her, you know. I mean, as long as you don't do it in the street and frighten the horses, that's mine.
Horses?
Prince,
You knew, didn't I? You knew I picked that one up.
Absolutely.
Princess Anne, does that scare you? I mean,
it did scare me. I mean, I mean, you know, royalty are different, aren't they? They aren't really like you and I, even though people might tell you that they are. They're not really. And I had an impression about her that was totally false. I mean, I actually went in trepidation because I'd bought the image the press put round about her. And in fact, I found her to be witty, charming, professional, bright as a button. Does not suffer fools gladly, that is for sure, if at all. But a very, very bright, intelligent, nice woman. I mean, and very professional. I mean, she came to our apartment in Sydney, and I just...
She came to you?
Yeah, and I sent her...
She came to you?
Yeah, for lunch, and
I should think that was pretty nerve-wracking.
well, it was for Mary. She took like 5 days to prepare it and all that sort of thing. But that's another story.
You didn't get the sausage, you got the chips.
But the thing was that I'd sent her a proposed areas. She didn't want questions. She just wanted areas. You know, da. And I'd sent them to her, and she brought them out. She gave her lunch, and she sat down and said, right. She said, I think it's a slow start. And I said, how do you mean a slow start? She said, there aren't many laughs up front.
She knew that?
And I said, well, give me a couple. So she gave me a couple of funny stories. And I thought that was admirable. I mean, that, you know, she'd bothered to think it all the way through. And I think that's typical of her. I think if she were not royal, that she'd be a very, very high-powered executive in television or newspapers or something like that. And perish the person who works under her didn't do his job properly.
Yeah, here we come to the tower.
No, she's very impressive. Very impressive.
Well, now, I know that, as your father, you still have this passion for Yorkshire cricket. That's why I'm terrified to ask you about boycott, and I'm not going to, because this is the president of the boycott fan club.
The band's already asked me.
Have they?
Yeah.
Well, we'll leave that, because that's, you know, it's a pretty wild... may have Yorkshiremen on the phone. But let's just wind up with one of the great characters of cricket, Fred Truman. Now, you know him.
Yes.
And he's got some wild stories.
I nearly wrote Fred's book, or biography, actually, but I didn't in the end. But while I was doing the research for it, I've known Fred for many, many years, I asked him for one story about himself that was true. You know, there are more stories told about Fred Truman than any other person, more than no coward. You know, you go to Women's Institute and ladies tell stories about Fred Truman, and 95% are not true. And I asked Fred for one story that was true, and he told me this marvellous story about when he was playing as a young man against India. And he was playing at Old Trafford, and he'd gone through the Indians in the first innings, got 7 wickets, and they were frightened of him. In those days, they weren't used to playing quick bowling, and Fred was quick in those
Pretty
days.
fast.
Oh, my word, he was. And on the second innings, Fred again was coming rampant, and he knocked 3 over very quickly. And standing at Fred's end was the doyen of British umpires, a man called Frank Chester. He didn't so much speak, Chester, as he uttered things that were carved on tablets of stone. It was law when he uttered. And out to bat came a man called Polly Umrigar, who was a very fine, seasoned player. And he decided the only way to stop Fred Truman was to old man him. And the way you old man a fast bowler, you psych him out. That's the modern thing, but old man him it was. When he runs into ball, and he's run 25 yards, and he gets that rupture-threatening stride like that, you hold your hand up and you stop him. You stop him from bowling. You can either remove the imaginary fly from your eye, or you can pretend your shoelaces, or as Umrigar did, he had the sight screen moved, see? So 25 times in 5 or 6 overs, he stopped Fred in this and you imagine what the language is like by now. I mean, the air is blue round Old Trafford, you see. But in the end, it wasn't Fred who totally cracked. It was umpire Chester standing at Fred's end, because the 26th time that Umrigar stopped Fred and had the sight screen moved, Chester uttered. He looked down the wicket, magisterial, and said, "Pray tell me, Mr. Umrigar, where ideally would you like the sight screen?" And Umrigar said, "Ideally, Mr. Chester, between me and that mad bastard Truman."
On that happy note, I think Dad would have enjoyed that too. On that happy note, it's been a privilege talking to you.
Thank you.
For me, I still say the king of chat, Michael Parkinson, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.